I hate it. I hate every bit of it. The process of getting it yesterday was a pain in the butt. Everything that could happen did happen, and hindsight is always 20/20, and I wish I never would have took it. The guy should have never even loaded me as well. But let's go show you what type of nonsense I'm dealing with right now. Everything's gonna work out, but it's a mess. So right now we're off of a one of the Florida Turnpike rest areas. Doesn't say which one. A lot of garbage around here. So the bullshit, excuse me YouTube, the bull crap that I'm dealing with right now would be all that. That's all steel pipe. So, let me get back into the truck to tell you what's going on. But real quick, this right here is about 24,000 pounds worth of steel pipe. So just to show you how I got this strapped, I got two big straps going up over the tops, and then I have one belly strap going over through the center of everything. So another one there. Another one here, and still doing it on this load here. So, but the truck is heavy. It is very heavy, and I'll show you why here in a minute. Now that I'm back where it's quieter and not as hot, so to give you a rundown of what happened, I started searching for a load on Wednesday morning, and one popped up. Oh, my sunglasses are bad. Always fucking something. Oh, my sunglasses are bad. I can't. These are prescription sunglasses. I paid a ton of money for these. I got the close, but it's been a day. Put my real glasses back on. So, anyways, I found this load on Wednesday morning, early Wednesday morning. It was posted at 20,000 pounds, but it did not say a weight, and the rate coming out of Florida was fairly good. I'll straight up say it. It was $1.98 coming out, which I liked. It was probably one of the better things I could find. So anyways, I called on it, and it didn't have a length listed on it, but at 20,000 pounds, I was like, well, maybe it's something, you know, like steel or something like the haul. And the guy who picked up the phone, the broker, is actually the guy that was moving the stuff at the facility. So like he was there looking at the load. Anyways, he said that he'd call me back in about an hour after he measured it. And I was like, okay, cool. He told me it was a steel pipe. So he calls me back later and he says, yeah, we can make this work. Come on in. And I was like, okay, cool. So thinking 20,000 pounds worth of steel pipe of some sort. No idea the size. So we finally get there. I drop off my last slab of marble, finally get there, and he shows me the stuff, and I'm just like, oh my god, all that? And again, I was still sitting there thinking, okay, it's only 20,000 pounds, it's a little tall, but I can work with it. So we start loading this sucker on, and we're getting it going on. It's filling up more and more of the truck. We're having to get creative on where we're putting these smaller bundles, and eventually, right when we were getting the last two bundles on, starts pouring down heavy rain. I mean, pouring down rain, like probably typical Florida storms. And it rained for about an hour. So they rushed to put the last bundles on. I ran into the truck because I didn't feel like getting soaked at that moment. So I'm sitting in the truck, they're sitting the last bundle on, and then they hightail back to the building to get out of the rain. And I sat there for about an hour. Rain poured down pretty good for about that whole time. After about an hour, it slowed down to a light drizzle to where I said, screw it, I'll go out there and I'll work in it. And that's what I did. So I'd start working in the rain to get this thing secured. And to try to keep a long story short, after about 2 hours working on that, since I got there, 2.5 hours, I get in the truck, I start it up, I start to air up the airbags, and instantly they just keep going up and up and up and up and up. Eventually it stopped at like 24,000 pounds on the gauge for the drive axle, and like the lift axle was sitting at 12. I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. So I pulled out onto level ground to make sure it wasn't like the rough terrain that was throwing off the weight gauges, and it's still bad. So I get out, I go back to the guy, and I'm like, look, you told me it's 20,000 pounds. I'm sitting probably 5,000 pounds overweight on the rear end right now. And he's like, well, it should have been something like that. And he starts doing math as far as how much each bundle weighed, which he knew how much each bundle weighed, but he started doing the math. After doing the math, it was actually 24,500 pounds was what it was. And I've always said this truck really only maxes out at about 25. So I was like, well, right there, that's basically right at my max weight. So we decided to move a couple of bundles, like smaller bundles, because most of them were in bundles of, I don't know, 8. And then there was a couple smaller bundles that were bundles of 2s and 4s. So we tried moving some of those from the back to the front, because I had originally left the front end a little bit lower, thinking that I might be overweight on the front. So we instead filled those gaps, and it was still pretty tall. And so we moved that. I got back in the truck, checked the gauges. It didn't really look much better. It was showing still about 22,000 on the rear. I readjusted the drop axle to be right at 10, and again we're still showing 22. So we got out and was looking at the tires, and what was weird was the drive axle tires did not look like they were squatting that much. And I had just had my rear airbags replaced, but I haven't recalibrated the gauge, so I'm thinking maybe it's off. Maybe it's actually off and we're actually alright. But the closest cat scale that I could get to was like 30 minutes away. And it's starting to get late now. So we go back and forth. He's, first of all, the broker, the guy that was there working with me, he was extremely nice and extremely good to work with. He was willing to do anything it took to make this work, or just, he was good. So we eventually agreed that I'll go out, I'll drive for 30 minutes, hit that cat scale, see what I'm at. If I'm good, I can keep rolling. If I'm not, he said he was going to stay late and help me sort things out and remove stuff if we have to. So I get out there, get onto the cat scale, and sure enough, I'll let you take a look there. Yeah, that was 21,720 on the drive axle. Now 13,220, I'm perfectly legal for that up front. But there was no way we could move the weight from the back towards the front axle. There was just no possible way. At that point, this load would be way too tall. It'd be really wobbly. It's already wobbly enough. So I had to make the call. I called him. I was like, look, this is no good. We gotta lose basically 1,700 pounds. So obviously both of us are getting frustrated now, but because we've kind of wasted a whole day on this. I got there at 11 o'clock, and it's now like 3:30, 4 o'clock. I had to drive a half hour back there. So I drive a half hour back there. We get, we end up taking off, let's see, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4. 6 rows. So at the very back stack, we took off 6 bundles at the very top, as well as 2 more on the next row. So that left me with a 6 across and 4 across on top of that. You probably saw that at the very back of the truck. That right there, we estimated was about 2,100 pounds taken off. So knowing that we took that weight off, I checked the gauges again, and it was still sitting right at 20, but realistically the math works out, and all that weight that we took off was from behind the rear axle. So in theory, none of that weight was being carried by the front. So if the math checks out, we were good. So eventually we just said, all right, we'll go for it. Thanks for your help, all this other stuff. And we took off. At this point though, I had like an hour and a half left of my day. I'm on the south end of Miami. This was picking up in Homestead, and there is next to nothing as far as parking out there. And so I went back to where I got that cat scale, and it's a really, really, really small pilot. And like as usual, because it's a pilot, half of the parking spaces are reserved, the other half are open, and go figure, no matter the time of the day, because there's only like 20 parking spaces there, all the spaces were full. Well, I went there because I wanted to do a reweigh, and I did get a reweigh, and this is what we ended up at. So because we took that little bit of weight off of the very back, it actually made the front end just a little bit heavier. The drawback, so I did lower the pressure some more, so obviously it's 10,180, but the biggest thing, 19,140. So that means we're legal, but the truck is still very wibbly wobbly. So because there's a lot of weight up high, this is what I don't like about this load. Because there's a lot of weight up high, I really have to be careful about my turns, big potholes, like when I'm going slow. The truck isn't gonna roll over, but it's not comfortable when you can feel the whole thing, you know, swaying left and right when you go around a turn. Actually, when I first went to the cat scale to get my first ticket, pulling into that pilot, it was at Dade's Corner. It was off of like 997 and Highway 42 or something like that, I don't know. Pulling into the pilot, you have to drop down, so like the entryway slopes down, so you come down from the road, you turn and you drop down. Well, when I turned, I went extremely slow, and as soon as the truck started to lean, make that turn, oh my gosh, the noises that it made, creaking and bending, and just, it was white knuckle on the wheel for sure. I did not like that one bit. So honestly, with that extra weight being gone, it is actually a world of a difference, because now it's not, you know, the airbags aren't actually overloaded. When they're overloaded, there's not a lot of support there. Now that they are in legal spec, they are a little bit more firm. But it's been a mess. We're legal though. I haven't gone through any scales yet. I'll be curious to know if they're gonna end up pulling me in for anything like this. I mean, there's enough straps. Everything is secured. I'm legal. Nothing's sticking out. So, I mean, everything's good, but I won't be surprised if they want to take a look at everything. But other than that, we got a long drive. We're going out to Camden, Alabama, and we won't make it today. We'll have to deliver first thing in the morning tomorrow. And the fun part is, like, the last hour or two of that drive is backcountry roads to get to Camden. So it's going to be real interesting driving out through there. Hopefully the roads are nice and smooth and not real wobbly. Regardless, I'm just going to have to take it slow. So anyways, that's my story. This video is getting long for just talking to you, but that's where we're at. I'll try to record anything that, you know, is interesting happen, but basically I'm just going to be cruising about 65 and taking my time. So ain't no rush with this one. So you guys join me on Interstate 10 running west, obviously mile marker 158. We are coming up to our last way station. We've gone by 2 different way stations already. We got one on I-75 just outside of Wildwood, and that one we had a bypass on, so we didn't need to go in. And then we had to go through the ag station on I-10, just after you get off of 75. That obviously we went through there with no problem, but the way station right after that, we also got the bypass. So this is now my third way station. We're gonna see if we get another bypass or if they're gonna finally bring us in to see what we got. So, like I said before, we're legal. It's just I would not be surprised if they want to double check everything after seeing the truck, and especially after seeing it roll over the scales if they bring me in. But we're coming up to the sensor, so let's see if we get a bypass or if it's closed. And obviously I do run a pre-pass, so this is how I know. And we got ourselves a bypass. Wouldn't matter because it's closed. So we're golden then. That's all the way stations we have to worry about for today and tomorrow. We'll be delivering probably somewhere around 9 o'clock. I made an executive decision to stay at the Loves outside of, it's like Mossy Creek or something like that. So we're about an hour away from there. We got 2 hours left of drive time, so it's working out. Technically by now, I think, maybe not by now, but I'm actually staying on the interstate longer than what the original route was. The original route was going to send me off into Woods a little bit before that Loves, probably like 30 miles before that Loves. But there was nowhere to park out there, so I just decided to keep going and park here at this Loves. We'll still drive through Woods for tomorrow to jump over to 65 and then get to Camden. But we'll park here for tonight. I do have my load booked for tomorrow. For one, first of all, it was difficult finding the loads because there was enough loads out there. They were all fairly moderately good as far as pay, but the biggest challenge was anything that I saw was posting as a Hotshot load, and I searched for both. Excuse me. I searched for both Hotshot and Flatbed loads, and the Hotshot loads were just flying off the table. I mean, like, the moment the load was posted, if it was anything like remotely good, over 2 a mile or something like that, it was gone. It would snap up a finger. So like by the time like I would see it pop up on the phone and I could click it, click the phone call, or click the phone number to call, by the time I deal with that, it's either usually booked or something of the sort. And so it was really difficult finding a load. And finally I got one. We're picking up at Gulfport, Mississippi, and we're going to be going over to Virginia Beach. It's a military load. It's paying pretty good. It's pretty light. I think it's 20 feet of deck space, various crates and stuff. So this will be my first military load. I'll be curious to know how that can go. I'm sure it's going to be a little bit of a headache trying to get through security and whatnot. And by headache, I mean it's just going to take a while. But that's what we got. Pays good. Going over to Virginia Beach for Monday, and that'll keep me settled for the weekend. So other than that, we just need to get this Wibbly Wobbly load off of us so that we can head over there. So with that being said, I'm going to end this here, and I'll probably pick up a video tomorrow. I'll try to get some footage of the unload, that way you guys can see just how much of a pain all this pipe is. So I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.